Let me make sure that we're streaming. Just a second. Oh. All right. So I didn't realize that I forgot to click go live. So I apologize, everyone. Let me start over. We are going to be, let's see. Click that. All right. So what we were doing, or what we're going to be doing today is taking this color study that I did from life in Florence, and we're going to be translating this to a different panel, and I'm going to be trying to do a different color harmony with the photograph that I captured. There we go, now I can see. Give me just a second, we're going to test the audio. Okay. Everything should be working now. Just a reminder, we had some issues last time with the chat. So if you want to ask me a question during this, if you go right below the video, there's a chat bar. You have to click that to open it up. And once that's opened up, I can see all the questions that you guys are asking me. So today we're going to be working on this oil-primed linen. It's the same material that I like to use when I go out on location. When I did this painting in Florence, I was working on this Centurion oil-primed deluxe linen, but it's pre-secured onto a panel. I buy the 24 by 36 panels, and I slice them up. And this linen that I just have taped to a board is the exact same material. You can get this and the panels on Jerry's Autorama. And I buy these really, really large rolls, and you can cut them up into all shapes and sizes. And it's a very inexpensive material to use, and it's very high quality. I love it. So yeah. Let's see, we have a question already. Did you cut your dreads? Why? Yes, I did. I was ready for a change and didn't realize how curly my hair was, so kind of cool. I like it. It's a weight off my shoulders, literally. Thanks for joining, PE. Okay, so let me switch over here. Again, if you have any questions during the stream, just type them in. I'll be reading them throughout. We are, also, I'm going to make sure everyone on social media is aware that we are live. So if you follow me on Instagram, it's Tanner Steed Art. You can go over there and actually see me paint this painting that I did in Florence. If you scroll back, you can kind of see the process. Today is going to be a slightly different process just because I'm in the studio and I'm working from a photo. When you're painting from life, the session needs to be very, very quick and efficient. So you're just trying to lay out color as fast as you can. And often you need to memorize what is happening from life and then try to capture that from memory onto your picture because clouds are moving, the sun is setting, the chaos of life is going on around you. So, let's see. Going live on YouTube, and here's the link. There we go. Click here. All right, now we're set for social media. All right, so today let's lay out our colors. I'm gonna get some gloves on. Don't want too many carcinogens. I like to use cadmiums, and occasionally I use lead. I won't be using lead white today. Typically I'll use lead white when I'm painting in multiple layers, so I do it on more finished paintings. So let's see, we'll switch over to my palette. One thing that you're not going to be able to see on camera is my medium cup. In here I just have a little bit of Stand oil and Gamsol. Really like Stand oil. It's kind of has a honey-like texture. So I'm going to grab paint in no particular order. We're going to start out with Titanium White by Williamsburg. It's my favorite white. I like the consistency, and I really like that it does not contain zinc. Zinc makes your paintings crack, or worse, delaminates, which means your paint can fall off the canvas, so we don't want that to happen. So I use linen, I use titanium white, not zinc. I just laid out alizarin permanent. Make sure if you're using alizarin crimson that you are getting the permanent version. If you just get alizarin crimson, you're going to have issues with light fastness. You don't want the color to disappear, so make sure you're getting alizarin permanent. Next up, I'm going to get some ultramarine blue. Whoops. Okay. Now the brand does not really matter. I use a variety of brands. I use Gamblin, Rembrandt, Williamsburg, Winsor & Newton, whatever works. I'm going to be working with a fairly limited palette today. It's not really necessary to go too overboard. We're going to use transparent red oxide, which is an excellent orange. Nice transparency, and let's see. We're also going to get some Indian yellow. I love this color. This is Indian yellow by Winsor & Newton. I really prefer the Michael Harding. This one is just a bit too oily for my preference. It's still a great color, but it drips down the walls a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get Touch of Amethyst by Michael Harding. Just getting a nice variety out, and I plan to use everything on here, but just because it's out doesn't mean I have to use it. But if it's not out, then, yeah, let's try this. We're going to use Cad Yellow Pale. Typically, I like to use Cad Lemon. Today, we're going to use Cad Pale, which is a slightly warmer version of Cadmium Lemon. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to use Raw Umber. This is the best Raw Umber in the business. Old Holland. So good. This tube is brand new. This is like the most exciting moment ever. Opening up a brand new tube of paint. Not going to need too much. Boop. Okay. Now to thin my paint today, I'm just going to use what is in my medium cup, which is the Stand oil and Gamsol mixture. So let's switch back over here, and there's my palette. Again, if you have any questions, make sure you type them in. Let's see. Okay, just joined. What colors are you using? So, I just laid them all out, but I'm going to be using titanium white, Cad lemon, or Cad yellow pale, Indian yellow, alizarin crimson, transparent red oxide, amethyst, ultramarine blue. we're going to stick with that. If I need other colors, I will put them out. Let's see. I would buy them for wearing. You want to buy my hair. You know what's funny is I actually may still have them and they might be for sale. I'm just kidding. I do have them, but they're not for sale. What a beautiful reference photo. Did you take it? It must be somewhere in Europe. Hey, Sylvie. Yeah. I took this in Florence, so I painted on location there. That's where this study came from. And I snapped a photo along with the painting. Now, the painting is going to tell me so much more than just the, oh God. Thank you, assistant. Okay, it's going to be weird. You guys can laugh at me if you'd like, but I still have my dreadlocks. They're right here. If you, highest bidder gets them. Is that gross? Yes, it is. But you know what? I'm not afraid to be a little weird. Okay. So, yeah, I was on a rooftop, up on a rooftop in Florence, and it was late in the evening. I'm like, oh my gosh. I loved the diagonals that were happening. So the one thing that I did want to try in this is not only the color palette, but I also wanted to slightly change my composition. I think I could get away with some stronger diagonals. Okay, so rather than starting with paint, I'm going to be using charcoal to begin. And let's see. So charcoal you really don't want to mix into your paints. So I'm laying this on really, really lightly. In fact, you may have a hard time seeing it. I'm laying it on so lightly. And after I've established a drawing that I'm satisfied with, I'll switch to graphite, which will secure the material. And I'm not really worried about capturing the exact proportions of these buildings. No one's really going to... This isn't a commission of these buildings. You know, I'm not painting a portrait of them. I have the memory and I have accurate proportions from the first one, but it'd be interesting to kind of take what I'm seeing and design a picture that's a bit more interesting. So go like this, like that. Maybe I get more of this rooftop in. So I can sketch this fairly quickly because, well, I'm not worried about getting it exactly, but more importantly, you know, some of my students were asking me today, do you think you need to learn to draw before you can learn to paint? And, or would it, another way of phrasing it is, would you recommend taking a drawing class before a painting class? And I said, absolutely, because if you can't draw it, you are going to have a very hard time drawing it with paint. Because really, when you're painting, you are just drawing. You're drawing with paint. So it's going to be a very expensive mistake if you're using oil paint and having to correct it versus using a stick of charcoal, which costs basically nothing. Okay, like that. So very similar composition, but what I really liked is this strong Z. So going from here to here to here, this one sticks out even more. And the one thing that I didn't see from life was maybe something coming in this way and mimicking this diagonal. Maybe we have a cloud that kind of comes down and goes like this. Mimics it. It doesn't need to necessarily be the exact same angle, but it does something similar. Okay? So I'm fairly satisfied with the drawing, and I will continue to draw as I go. When you stop or when you're painting, you continue to resolve the proportions. But today, the focus is primarily on a color study. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step out of frame. I'm going to look for a pencil. Let's see. If you are, oh, right at my feet, of course. Speaking of pencils, if you go to the Art Students League of Denver, I think I left my pencil bag there. So message me on Instagram if you find my pencil bag. I don't know where it went. All my favorite pencils are in there, and I'm sure you're laughing at me. Probably you, Sylvie. Let's see. Sylvie's a good friend of mine. Okay, so charcoal dusts off very, very easily. This is vine charcoal. If I were to put my hand on it, I could erase it very easily with just the touch of my finger. Now, interesting. That's why I'm reinforcing the drawing with pencil. And let's see how I solve that there. Yeah, I like that. Put the flat rooftop here and give some indication for a cloud. I'll design that more later, but I really do like that angle. And maybe I have one here too. Okay, like this. Boop, boop. So this painting is about verticals and about diagonals. And in the first one, I put these satellite dishes in. I don't know if I like those. I think I'll take them out of this one. So it's good to do many, many paintings rather than spending hundreds of hours on a single painting. You will get more out of doing many short pictures, short duration pictures that are brought to less of a finish, at least early on. Took me a very long time to admit that. But then I learned for myself. Just makes sense. Okay, so now that I've kind of scratched in my drawing, I'm going to take a paper towel and wipe it away. And what I'm left with is just the graphite, which is perfect. I want to make sure I remove the majority of it. Okay, or all of it. All the charcoal. Okay. And now, let's see. Let me check for questions. Use them as a paintbrush. My hair? Oh my God. Yeah, maybe that's how I'll sell them. I'll make little paintbrushes and sell them on my my website, which is tannersteedart.com. Go check it out. I just added a couple paintings on there. And this sketch from Florence is for sale too, if you want to buy the original. And by the way, any painting that I do on the live streams are for sale. So they may not be on the website, but if you were to comment and you want more information about these, you can comment and we can discuss that, or you can find me on Instagram too, Tanner Steed Art. What kind of painting surface is this for? Oh yeah, so this is an oil primed linen. I buy them in big rolls on Jerry's Artorama like this. And this is cut down from a much, much larger roll. And I do these little comp studies on. And if I really like the painting, then I will use PVA glue and glue it onto a hardboard. But what's great about them is if you, like let's say I'm shipping this, I can just roll this up and send it off. It ships so easily. I really like that. And it's a very high quality surface. It's the same material that I paint on for my more finished works, but they're all on boards. Oops. Okay, so we're going to switch over to the palette real quick. And I'm going to create a few of my color mixtures. So I'm going to open my medium. My medium, again, is Stand Oil and Mineral Spirits. Just going to lay some of that out. Okay. Okay, so I'm seeing quite a lot of warmth in this sky. So I tend to paint back to front, the things that exist behind, and then move my way forward. So I'm creating a nice warm yellow mixture, and 90% of this paint is transparent that I'm putting in this mixture. Not all of my paint is transparent. I'm not including any white at this stage. I kind of want a pink sky. We're going to do a gradation from dark to light, and you can see it in the photograph. I'm sorry, not dark to light. Dark on top, it goes a bit cooler in the sky, the higher up in the sky, and then it drops down into a warmer tone. So, and when I squint, all of those buildings are significantly darker than what the sky is. So I'm going to be aware of that. And the sky is also impacting the, let's see, I can point to it on screen, impacting this building here. It's much warmer on the planes that face us, whereas this far one kind of is a bit cooler. So we're going to start with the sky. And when I do this, I'm painting very, very thinly, assuming that I am going to get close, but it's likely that I will change things. Okay, I'm using a round brush. I love rounds. They feel like pencils to me. So I think we're going to go with like a true sunset feel, whereas mine was much more invented. Okay. Now I want that cloud in the sky to be very, very vibrant, very warm. So I'm going to stain this area with yellow, like this. Okay, and then we're going to create a gradation going slightly into the purple range. So I'm going to add a little bit more red to my original mixture, which was Indian yellow and alizarin crimson. And then I'm just going to touch the blue, and I'm keeping this really, really thin, like almost like watercolor. Now that is clearly brown and way too dark. There we go. So it becomes more neutral as it climbs up into the sky. And I had a little bit of King's Blue left on my palette. I didn't squirt that out. I did just add it. So the goal is to make a nice gradation into the sky, and in order to make this cloud glow, it needs to be darker or cooler as we rise up into the sky. Okay, I'm going to take my fan brush and knock this down. And what's so cool about these color studies is if you do a ton of them, each individual one doesn't necessarily matter. You're not attached to each one. There we go. Okay. So let me make sure that this is exposed. Let's see, we might go like that. That seems to be a bit more accurate. There. Okay, now this warmth is going to be impacting the buildings as well. So it's okay if the sky mixture kind of gets in and stains these buildings a bit. Because what's going to happen is the buildings are going to mix with this color. So this warmth underneath isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I might stain the entire picture with this warmth. So it's really important to start thin and then slowly get thicker and thicker and thicker. And with this stain, you can see that my graphite is staying put. Go. Remove all my brush strokes. Sorry about the barking if you can hear that. I got a few dogs here at the studio. There we go. All right, so now if you're questioning, oh my gosh, what the heck should we mix up next? Go for the thing that makes the most sense. So we're working back to front. The first thing that stands out, this building is in the far back. I bet I could match that value pretty easily. It's significantly darker and it's cooler. It's a cool red, kind of brown, keeping it nice and neutral. So relative to the sky, it's very, very cool. So I'm going to switch over to the palette while I mix that up for you. So grab some raw umber, alizarin, amethyst, and I want to make sure that it doesn't get too saturated. I just picked up extremely saturated colors. For my preference, there's different schools of thought for this. I like to start things out neutral and become more saturated over time. I'm going to grab a little bit of white so we can really see the intensity of this. Okay, I'm going to neutralize using yellow, which if you see me grabbing raw umber, I think of raw umber as yellow. It's just a neutral dark yellow. So I grab white and that will cool things off. Okay, raw umber will neutralize and darken. Okay, so we're going to start there, and this is just our best guess. I don't judge any of my decisions too early. You want to be able to block things in and then adapt as needed. So I did this drawing fairly carefully. Now, as I go, I'm going to get more and more specific with my drawing. So I'm going along and I'm putting in some tiles, like a tile-like silhouette. Let me just make sure you guys don't have comments. Let's see. What kind of painting surface? So I answered that. I would buy them. You should include them when you buy lessons. You could even ship them off to your Zoom students. That's so funny. Yeah, great idea. Yeah, what if for my next Zoom student, if you guys didn't know, I teach students online as well as in person. I teach private lessons in Denver as well as at the Art Students League of Denver. And then if you're not in Colorado, you can take lessons with me online. It's really cool. If you guys haven't heard of Procreate, my gosh, I love this thing. I can paint onto your paintings using Procreate, even if you don't live in Colorado. You just send me an image of your work, and I can give you critique and adapt your picture using that software. So, so yeah, if you're interested in that, you can go to Tanner Steed Art and kind of scroll through, find classes and workshops, and yeah, let me know if you'd like to take private lessons. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to ship my dreadlocks off, Sylvie. I'm sorry. Yeah, higher price. And yeah, it is kind of gross. So I blocked in these colors. Now I'm squinting my eyes, looking at the subject and kind of swinging back and forth. I'm not judging any of the light space. I'm just looking at the relationship of this rooftop to the background. It's pretty close. I think it's a good start. We're going to move on. It's a little too saturated for my preference, but we're going to continue. So let's block in some of the buildings. So I'm using the same brush, and that's okay. Starting with white, bringing in raw umber, because when I look at these buildings, they look, their local color is yellow, but not a very strong yellow, so I'm using my neutral yellow, raw umber. Raw umber. I'm going to start thin, so that was just white, raw umber, and then the bit of purple that was already on my picture. Okay. We're going to block these in all together, and although there are individual buildings, I'm going to block them all in with the exact same tone, and that way I know they're all relating. I'm losing edges wherever I can, and I'm working very two-dimensionally. And because I'm painting thinly, I can still see the drawing underneath. And the way I draw, the way I paint is similar in the way I draw. I like to mix as close as I possibly can on the palette, and then I will continue to change the color, adapt the color on the picture, on the painting. Okay, there's a rooftop here. Okay, I can link this shape with that, this shape with that, scrubbing it in. Didn't put in my rooftops down here yet, that's okay. Okay, liking it already. When I squint, the values seem pretty darn close. Color temperature needs to shift. I'm very saturated for my liking right now. But you know what, that's okay. It's good to get out of your comfort zone. Right. Okay, we got that, we got this. Bring that lower. Okay, let's get that rooftop color a bit closer. Now, as it comes closer, we're noticing a slightly different hue shift. So I'm going to cool it off using King's Blue. And King's Blue has zinc in it, which is dangerous, but I like it. I think you can make King's Blue or a very similar mixture with ultramarine and titanium white. Okay. Sorry, just switching between tabs so I can see your questions. Now, if I were intelligent, I'd have both tabs open at the same time. But here I am painting. Okay, so I'm going to knock down some of these brush strokes using my fan blender, my fan brush. I want it to kind of be fuzzy at this stage. Or it can be, it doesn't matter. Because I'm not committed to anything yet. Okay, liking where it's headed. Let's block in one of those other rooftops. I might need to squirt out a little bit more paint. Actually, on this trip, I met someone at a wine tasting event, and they just contacted me recently, and they'd like to do private lessons, which is really cool. Really cool just because, you know, meeting in Italy, and you just never know if you're going to run into another artist, or never know who you're talking to or how they could impact your life. Let's see. Now this building in the back, I'm going to zoom in on my iPad. See, this is the trouble of painting from life, or painting from a photograph. You can't really walk around the scene, so you don't really know what you're looking at. So based on the photo, I'm seeing this building back here. It looks like it's behind this one. And I don't really remember. This is a distant building. Let's see. That's okay. Okay, so I'm liking where this is going. I'm going to combine that shape right there. Let's bounce up into the sky. So in order for these lights to feel powerful, I need to put in the shadows behind these clouds. So just like cylinders, they're going to go from a light side, and then they're going to turn into a shadow side. So the shadow side is still going to be very, very warm. When I squint down, they're still quite light. We're going to get some burnt sienna, Indian yellow, raw umber, so all very, very warm colors. I'm questioning if I need to add white to it. Probably not. Or if I do, just a very, very, very small amount. They kind of look purple. As long as they're warm, I'm going to be happy. So we're just going to lay this in as a test, and I'm already not liking it. Way, way, way too saturated in the orange range. So I'm going to add more purple. Purple and raw umber. I don't hate it. It just seems very intense. Now the camera is not capable of picking up on these colors accurately. So I need to base my decisions off of the paintings that I have done from life. Or you can kind of just make it up, but not randomly. Don't think, if I say make it up, it doesn't mean you can just randomly choose colors. I mean, you can, but I like to base it on reality. I think that's more important. Okay. Make sure my brush is clean. Just soften that. Interesting. Okay. I don't love it, but I'm going to move on, and I'll swing back when I have a clearer mind. Actually, I think we need to cool that off and introduce just a little bit of white. That's what my gut is telling me. So, that. I don't love it. So I'm going to take my paper towel. I'm going to wipe it away. Yeah, we're going to move on to a different section. Let's introduce some cool notes into this far building. So what's happening is this building is further away, and something is reflecting into this side of that building. So the paint is still wet, so I'm adding blue and making this white mixture. And when I put it in here, I want it to be the exact same value. If it's going to be anything other than that, it could be a little bit lighter because it's going to mix into that paint. I'm just going to cool this off a bit. So cooling off, anything neutral on here is going to be perceived as cooler. So we have an orange light. Our shadows are cool. I'm going to mix that in. I want it to be super, super subtle. As I bring this color down, I can start to draw out that roof. There's some indication of those roof tiles. Okay. Seems a little off. That. I'm going to take a step back so you can see it from afar. Yeah, it looks a little too purple gray. I think we should kind of push it into the green gray. And I think it should be a little bit lighter. So I'm basing these decisions off the photograph. But I'm also just trying to create a different color harmony than I had before. And your initial decisions will impact the whole painting process. By laying in that initial tone, it's going to impact my perception of all of that. Let's see, questions. Sylvie asks, I've heard Italy is beautiful, but I've never been. Have you done a lot of traveling around Europe? I have only been to Italy and France. Only been to Paris, but sorry, let me switch back. In Florence was my favorite. It was so stinking cool. The art there, everywhere you turn is a painting. It just felt like home. I feel like I could live there, maybe in another life, or maybe in the future I might move there. I do plan to go back very soon. I'm going to be going with Daniel Sprick to Rome, and we're going to paint all over the countryside. Just kidding. We're gonna paint some ruins. Going to be a really good time. And let's see, what else? I went to Milan. I went to Rome on my last trip, and I'm planning to check out Germany one day. I've heard from a friend that it is stunning, and I cannot wait. I can't wait to go. I've seen pictures. It just looks so, so cool. Okay, so I'm cooling this off, and it has a vibe. I'm not sure if I love it. We're going to move down closer to the foreground. Now, your darkest notes are always going to be as close to you as, or the closest objects to you are going to have the darkest shadows. So, and that's due to atmospheric perspective. So as things recede, your shadows get a little bit lighter. So I'm going to place in a really nice, rich, dark note down in here. Even though we're working with sunlight, a sunset, you would think I would put in a dark blue cool note. I'm going to put in a really, really dark, rich, warm note under here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because when I place this in, it's going to impact the perception of all of the cool notes that exist elsewhere. If this is nice and warm, then these are also going to feel very, very warm. I mean cool, very cool, compared to that sunset. I'm using a slow drying paint, so all of this is going to remain wet throughout the entire process. Okay, I'm going to take a step back. Okay, I like that. I like where it's going. I really don't like this sky. I do want to have a diagonal here, but maybe this cloud isn't working. I can just rub that out with my thumb. I'm a big fan of finger painting. Okay, let's redo that sky. So there's no reason why we should go further down here until we build the most basic components and we're satisfied with the big picture. No detail is going to make this look better. It should look great from every point. And really, in a color study, it is not about the details. Let's see, we're going to need to grab some white. And I want it to remain very, very light in the sky. But a lavender tone could be pretty interesting. So when I squint, it's clearly a very dark color. But this could act as maybe the cloud pointing down like this. The cloud is just one option to create that diagonal, but it could also be just a general gradation, going from light to dark, but then the gradation kind of points in the same direction. Kind of interesting. We get a clean paper towel and dipping it in Gamsol. I'm going to kind of wipe away at this a little bit. Huh, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Not afraid to experiment on camera. And no promises. This could be a very, very, very bad painting. I don't mind. Again, that's what color studies are for. They're for you to feel free to explore and find different options. Now, I will say that I'm very patient, and so I doubt that I'm going to leave this picture without being somewhat satisfied. I'm going to clean my brush off, and we're going to get some titanium white, some Indian yellow. I'm going to fill these areas in. Now, one thing I do want to avoid is creating like a halo around this building. I don't want there to be a separation from the background and the drawing of this rooftop. We want to make sure that it looks like it's passing behind it. So I'm going to make sure it goes right up to that edge. And being a rooftop that's further away, this is kind of a cool opportunity to create a soft edge or a firm edge, one that still mimics a rooftop but is perhaps a little bit softer. Okay, so it's kind of cool. What if I put in these thick brush strokes with cad lemon pale and titanium white, and that's how I created those diagonals. color will be perceived as brighter if you paint it more thick than if you painted it thinly. So if I lay these on nice and thick and kind of playful with them, they could act as those clouds. So these clouds kind of have a hard edge on the bottom, and then they're soft and they turn like a cylinder towards the top. Now, they are also in perspective, so I need to be aware of that. This should be slightly more horizontal than the ones above. Huh, kind of cool. Liking that a lot more than whatever I had earlier. It's usually a gut feeling, I can just tell. Okay, I want to make sure that this edge is nice and firm. Now, all the faces of these buildings that are closer to the light and are more facing the sunset, they should be warmer and also a little bit brighter. I'd like to create a gradation going from warm up to this point. It's a very, very subtle difference, but you can see I've started to develop a corner to this building because this face is ever so slightly warmer. And I made it warmer and lighter just by mixing in the color that was already on my brush that's in the clouds now. So now they're related. Okay. Also going to soften this edge. Make it more firm, more of a firm edge. Okay. Oh yeah, I like that. Tops of these clouds should be nice and soft, but also a little bit darker. I'm going to kind of scrape out and then put in slightly darker notes. Okay, I like that. What else? Let's check for questions. I have paint all over my hands. Okay. Wow, wow. You can see all the time and work you've put into practicing your craft. The sky is stunning, yet you make it seem so effortless. Ah, that's very nice. Full disclosure, I am just messing around on this canvas today. I am certainly no expert, but I appreciate your comment. Gotta practice every day. Even when you're not in the studio. So when I'm driving down the street, driving in Denver, on my way to the Art Students League, I am painting pictures in my head. And when someone's talking to me, yeah, I'm listening to them. But you know what I really am doing? I'm looking at the core shadow on their nose. Oh my gosh. That thing is gorgeous. If only they knew. Nice, okay. Now, this rooftop here, I think we need a darker note with it. So I love when paint is still wet on the canvas and you can manipulate it And I like to occasionally load the brush using the paint on the canvas. The palette and the canvas are the same thing to me. And we can create some interesting textures by scrubbing in, and not just for a random reason or for no reason at all, just to have texture in your picture. You can use the texture to give the illusion of certain details, like the rooftops. Okay, so these are much further away from my light source, and they're not getting a lot of reflected light. So I'm going to darken them a bit as I lighten them. There we go. And start to introduce a little bit more white, so they're more opaque. There we go. Continuing to draw. I've got these warm purple shadows. Horizontal line, this is closest to my horizon line, and then this rooftop goes down. Okay, I like it, I like it. Okay, not crazy about this far rooftop. So I'm going to go up here and darken it a bit. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go under each of the rooftops and give a very, very subtle cast shadow. Because all of these rooftops are in the shadow, they're cast shadows that are immediately underneath each of these rooftops are going to be very, very small, very short distance. And I want to make sure that it's a nice firm line, and I may actually introduce some green into these purples. So it's a sap green is what I just mixed into it. I didn't squint that out earlier, but it was already on my palette. And I feel like using it. Okay, now I need a smaller brush. I've been obsessed with these brushes lately. They're the Michael Klein series. They're so good. They're just rounds. Drawing is my first love. So let's see. If you are just joining now, make sure you join the chat. Ask me some questions. If you go underneath the video, you can open up the chat bar. I know we had some issues last time. I was getting some comments and emails that they were confused where to find the chat. Here to answer any questions, and no question is a stupid question. So I like to keep my shadows transparent. It's a very traditional thing to do. Transparent shadows, opaque lights. Nice and thick in the lights, thin in the shadows. Okay, and as the shadows come closer to us, they're going to get darker due to atmospheric perspective. So I actually may want to not only make this richer, but also sharper and darker. I'm liking the saturation in those. See, when I look at the camera, this looks kind of like it isn't a straight line, which is kind of bothering me. This and this don't line up. So there is an issue with my linear perspective. I need to move that line up. This. That. Okay. I don't know why that paper towel is there. Remove that. My mixture is alizarin crimson, sap green, a little bit of ultramarine blue for these deep, dark, transparent mixtures. And what's really interesting is no matter what I paint, I may have the intention of painting the sunset, but something that's happening completely subconsciously is a consistency in the choice of my colors. If we compare this one to the one I did prior, it looks eerily similar in that perhaps it's just the colors that I have on my palette, but there's this unintentional consistency in my paintings. Do you guys get that too? I know someone on the last live stream was asking if it's kind of funny. He's like, what makes a Tanner Steed painting a Tanner Steed painting? I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. But if I did have to, it would be that the colors look very similar. There's like kind of an eerie vibe to them that I'm not doing intentionally. Or I am doing intentionally because I look at the picture and I'm like, what does it need? And the colors that I reach for, that I feel look good, or feel good, are all kind of eerie. Melancholic. Oh, I like this. Looks pretty good on the stream. Okay. I do want to change the drawing up here. I think my rooftop is getting a little wonky. I'm going to repeat this angle again in the sky, in some of the clouds. That way this angle is being repeated, and so are these. And with clouds and with trees and all that, it's common to place them in even intervals, just due to being human. So I'm going to do my best to make these a little bit more interesting. And if I really like this, I could turn this into a more finished piece. I'm liking it so far. So that's good. Okay, so now that I've established this, I feel like I need a gradation down here because we have all this coolness in this guy. Scrub some of this out. When you scrub a cool mixture, it exposes the makes it a bit more transparent, and you can kind of get this interesting interesting effect where you have two temperatures existing simultaneously in a picture. So when you squint, it's the same value, but it's a bit more, it has more excitement in it because it's a warm and cool mixture. So I'm going to cool this side off, mix some of this in. Okay, like that. Let's see. Okay. Working general to specific. And what's great about this is I can really take my time, whereas when I was painting on location, I had to move as fast as I possibly could. I cranked that thing out in like an hour. And sometimes those decisions feel better. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. Let's see, we're going to place in this rooftop feature because it's providing us with the assumption that the scene continues outside of it. Now we're going to get into some of the detail. There we go. So detail exists within these colors and shapes. I'm not going to put something completely different inside of each one of these. I'm going to use the color that already exists there, and if I take some of the color here, I can start to draw out the rooftop tiles. And I'm not worried about creating the exact amount of rooftop tile. I just want the effect that there are tiles there. And the mixture that I'm using is slightly cooler, which is not a bad thing. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a subtle gradation where it is cooler here and it warms up as it climbs up the wall. I'm doing that just by blending the two bands of color together. As I do that, I'm kind of scraping it off a little bit, unintentionally. I don't like that. A little bit of scraping is good. These cast shadows that exist immediately underneath the rooftop should be nice and soft. Okay. There we go. Need this dark shadow underneath this rooftop here. go. Okay, like that. All right, I am going to take a 5-minute break, so I will be right back. If you have more questions, please add them, and that'll be the first thing that I do when I get back. All right, coming back. Let's see. Anyone in the chat? Luke, is the dress blue or black, gold, and yellow? Ha ha ha. So Luke is one of my private students. He comes to the studio and hangs out in here with me. Been discussing color, and you guys all know that blue and or the blue and yellow. What is it? Blue and black, or the gold and yellow dress. That picture where, if you don't know about it, just Google blue and black dress, gold and yellow dress. And it's so interesting. You'll talk to a group of people and ask them, what color is the dress? And everyone will be certain of one particular view. So depending on if you're viewing the dress in as if it were in shadow, you view it as white, or no, you view it as gold and yellow, or blue and black. So when I look at it, I see blue and black, and I'm certain of it. I have a very, very hard time looking at it and seeing gold and yellow. So it's so interesting how our color perception, you make an assumption, but I don't know if it's based on preconceptions or even an internal thought process at all. It could just be the number of rods and cones in your eyes that is allowing you to perceive something accurately or slightly inaccurately. Let's see. So thanks for sharing that. Andrew, hi Tanner, in your reference photo, is that blue just above the building on the left? Is that blue? What is the blue just above the building on the left? So that is pretty interesting. I'm looking at that too. It's a dark cloud, or it could have been a distant mountain. I can't quite remember. I'm trying to think back to when I was in Florence looking at that from the bridge. So the bridge, Ponte Sisto, is just around the corner from this scene. And if you're looking at that bridge way off into the distance, are there mountains? Possibly. I thought about adding it here, but really it's not important to me because I like the design of kind of these zigzags. If I had that blue right there, it may distract from this. Hello from Hungary. Hello from Denver. Glad you're here, Zali. Yeah. All right, let's get back to painting. I lost my gloves. There's a glove on the ground. There we go. Ready to go. Okay. So, I'm really liking where this is headed, but we're running up on that 2-hour mark, so I kind of want to push a little bit faster. So I'm going to grab my tiny brush, boop, and we're going to start cranking out some of these details. So this rooftop is definitely messing with me. So before I move on to any of the details, I'm going to get raw umber, ultramarine blue, amethyst, and create this dark purple mixture. And I'm going to change the drawing here, like this. I could worry about getting all of these little rooftop tiles, and I also want to remind you that you're perceiving the picture from a slightly different angle than I am. It's impossible to give you the exact angle that I am perceiving. Until Neuralink becomes a thing, I'm not going to be able to do that. And no, that's not me saying that I'm going to get Neuralink. I'm not going to be one of the early adopters. Sorry, Mr. Musk. But that would be pretty interesting, being able to see exactly what the demoer is seeing. One could argue that that would be a much more effective system. I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever participated in a demo, if you've gone out to, I was just in Scottsdale in Robin Cole's workshop, and you can see what they're doing. You can stand right next to them, but if the group of people is really, really large, you're going to have a hard time seeing what is being demonstrated. So I guess we should install Neuralink into our bodies. So first, it's important to decide what color and value you're going to be using for each of these areas. And then within those, you can create very, very subtle changes in temperature or in value to create the details or the texture of whatever the surface is. If you put too dark or too light or too saturated of a color to create those subtle textural differences, it's going to stand out a little bit too much. And I kind of did that unintentionally down here. So I'm actually going to lighten some of this up a bit. Kind of like cross-hatching. I'm kind of painting off to the side too. So I'm going to stand a bit closer. Okay. There's a slightly darker note at the end of this, if you look at the reference photo. Going to place that in. And I like how dark and warm it gets here. So this brush is very, very soft. So as I kind of scrub into the paint, it lays it right on top, and if I want to, I can mix into the paint as well. Just micro movements, all about subtlety. Oops. Grab more raw umber, like that. And I don't mind having some of that transparency. Some people like a very, very smooth surface. I like the kind of scrubby look to things. Creates kind of an atmosphere. Someone who does it so, so well is Alex Venezia. I very much appreciate his work. One day I hope I can paint like that. Alright, so why don't we put in some of these windows. I think that's really going to make this much more exciting. So I'm going to get transparent oxide red, a little bit of ultramarine blue. They cancel each other out and create a very, very dark mixture. I'm going to mix that into my white because I don't want it to be pure black. I want it to be warm, so I want it to lean brown. But I don't want pure black because this window is much further away than the details that are going to come forward. So I'm going to very carefully draw this out, and it's mixing into the paint a bit. That's okay. Just means I need to change the orientation of my brush and lay it on a bit thicker. Some of that broken color is kind of interesting though. So, and at a distance, like based on just the view from the camera, it still reads as a dark shape, and you can interpret that as a window. Okay. Next up, we're going to do that railing on the side of this guy. It's a slightly warmer mixture. It's similar to the rooftop. It's definitely darker. So amethyst, ultramarine blue into that previous mixture. And because this is such a straight line, I'm going to grab my maul stick so I can rest my hand on it. Now, a maul stick is literally just a stick. Don't waste your money, don't go buy one, even though I made that mistake. You can use it as a straight edge. And in architectural scenes, this is really important. So I'm thinning out the paint a little bit so it runs a little bit more easy. And resting my fingernail on the maul stick, and I'm just going to slide it up and to the right once I get this set. Okay, you only really get one shot, and it was pretty close. My brush stroke at the beginning is a little bit too tapered. So, ideally you get it in one brush stroke, but I didn't, not a big deal. Just come back over. Whoop. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to lay in the little beams that are holding this post up, so it doesn't look like a second roof line. And just balancing my pinky. In regular intervals. One back here, like that. And they're a little too spaced apart, these two. It's unfortunate, but whatever. You won't tell anyone, will you? Now I'm noticing that this rooftop could stick out a little bit more. I'm going to change the drawing, and as I do that, I'm going to give a very, very subtle oscillation to this brush stroke to create the tiles, that tiling effect. Okay, now one thing that I didn't do, that I should have done, is done the cast shadow underneath this beam. I laid it in, and now I'm going to have a much more difficult time creating that cast shadow underneath. So I'm going to attempt something. It may work, it may not. I'm going to load my brush with a similar mixture, and I'm going to soften the edge between the bottom of this cylinder. So I can use the maul stick to balance my hand, and we're just going to make a very, very soft mark. Ideally, we mix the dark paint into the light, not the light into the dark. So I'm going to really load my brush well with a warm mixture, because we have really nice warm shadows. I just want a nice soft cast shadow underneath this. And I also want the corner to be there. I'd say values are the most important thing, but second in line is edge quality. No, I'm sorry. Drawing and proportions are the most important thing. Second is value. third is edge, and then fourth is color. If I were to put a hierarchy of importance. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Okay, I do like the chimney that's coming up on this guy. So it is on that wall. So I'm going to load the brush, make sure it's a similar mixture to this. So I can test it. Yep, it's good. Thin it out. I'm going to go straight vertical. And I'm going to start up here. And I'm going to go straight down. Change it from the reference a little bit. Do I want it out here? No, put it here. Thank you, Stick. Okay, it's a cylinder, or yeah, it is. I'm going to decide, soften this edge a little bit. The slower the turn, the softer the edge. So if it's closer to a cube, it's going to be more firm edge, like the side of these buildings. Closer to a cylinder, the softer the edge is going to be. Now after placing that in, it looks a little bit too cool. So I'm actually going to cool the side of this building off a little bit more. And I'm noticing that my rooftop has an inconsistency in the drawing. It's a little bit too long for this roof. So I'm actually going to, I like the longer roof. I'm going to cut that off right there. Although I'd hate it for this to be a tangent, so I might also move that over. Okay, now I could use that large fan brush to soften this area, but I prefer to have a bit more control. So I'm going to grab a comber. Here it is. My Eclipse Extra Long Comber by Rosemary & Co. And that's going to allow me to soften this area more accurately. Also this. Okay. Let's see. Persephone, good to see you stream again, Tanner. Yeah, I will be doing this every Saturday at 2 to 2:30, as in the start time, not 2 to 2:30. Finishing. So definitely come back, come hang out again. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's see. Zoli, it's so sad that thousands of users watch idiotic game streams, but only a few watch a painter's sick world. Hey, you know what? Everyone's got their thing that they are interested in, and you know, some, yeah, I love painting. I used to play video games, but, you know, it's kind of interesting. I played the games where you would be grinding to get higher and higher levels and more skills. I really like games with skill trees where you would spend many, many, many hours training on this one thing, and you'd slowly build up your progress. And I just loved to see that progression and to see that the skill building in a game. Now, I really do think that it translates very well, and it could be the exact, that feeling of fulfillment, I could be feeling the same way with painting. It's a very similar sensation. I love to see progress. And you can view life as your video game. So I'm not going to diss the people who love watching streamers, but I am going to suggest that maybe that passion you have for video games, maybe you could apply that to what's happening in real life if you want. You don't have to. You know, people feel very fulfilled playing games. And, you know, I am guilty of taking myself a little bit too seriously sometimes. Because really, we don't know what's going on. I certainly don't. Maybe you do. Life is crazy. Throws you curveballs every other month. Okay. Getting vibes of Maurice de Vlaminck, Favest, you know. Just based on the way I just said that, I don't know that artist, so I'm going to have to look him up. Andrew, you've got... I read your email, by the way, Andrew. Thank you for that. I'll respond with more later. You're a pretty knowledgeable guy. Let's see. So, I'm sorry, getting vibes of Maurice de Vlaminck, the Favest. Balance of random sky versus hard buildings. Muted colors, of course. Oh, of course. I love the muted colors, and that's really cool that there's the overlap. Yeah, a lot of softness and then the rigidity of these buildings. I do like that a lot. Okay, this is a cylinder, so part of it should be darker, and it should transition into, or maybe not darker, but a warmer side to a cooler side, because this is facing us, and that is facing away. Ooh, I also would like to make this a bit darker. Let's see. Some games have such beautiful art in them as well, just different from what you create. Yeah, I mean, there's so much overlap. Good point, Sylvie. There's so much overlap in the painting world and the video game creating world. So, yeah, maybe that if you're really into video games, you could also get into creating them, or just like there are art appreciators that maybe they don't paint, there are video game appreciators. There's probably a better way to say that. You can let me know. That people can appreciate game art just as much as we can appreciate an oil painting, because there's so much work that goes into those video games, and they can be so beautiful. Oops. Bumped the palette camera, sorry. It's funny, not sure if you guys know how tight how much room I actually have to maneuver. I'm surrounded by cameras right now. It's pretty cool. I don't need all of the tiles described, I just need a little bit, a few. All of these undulations, ooh, that's a little dark, are going in perspective. So I'm imagining a line going off to the horizon as I make this wiggle. Shoot. And these rooftops are not perfect, so that's what I'm going to tell myself when I make all these little mistakes. And I'm not worried about all the little details in this picture, because this is just a color study. I'm just trying a different way of viewing the same scene. Love these videos. Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Glad you're here. I'll be doing them every Saturday. So definitely tune in, and if you have any questions, let me know. Let's see. Okay. Now, going along with what I was talking about way early in the stream, one of my students was asking, should I take a drawing class before taking a painting class? Or should a student, I don't think she meant her, it could have been, should a student take a drawing class prior to taking a painting class? I say, absolutely. You can only paint as well as you can draw, at least at the beginning. It's so important to be able to draw well. Like if you're learning how to draw buildings in perspective with paint, oh man, that's going to be frustrating. Liking this. Let's see. Interesting, this roof down here in reality kind of has a flex to it. It's almost curved. But if I put that in the painting, people may see the curve and assume I made a mistake in my perspective. So I'm actually going to go against reality so that the picture makes more sense. Gutter on these. It's very cool. So I'm adding a little bit of white. Okay. We're going to warm this up. Sap green, alizarin crimson, and I still want this to be much darker. Go. I agree, but I think that making a painting like this is a real achievement. A game is just a set of algorithms. There is no possibility of spontaneity. True. I'm having fun challenging this. I hope you're okay with that. Let's see. Well, what if you created art in the video game? And the video game was your medium of choice. So I chose oil paint, they chose Halo, and they built the most spectacular map with the constraints that the game designers created. One could argue that we are also limited in what we could create based on our circumstances and the chemistry that we were born with. And that's not to say that talent is an inborn thing. I really do think that the majority of people can learn to paint and draw. I don't think you're born with an art gene. I think if you are intrinsically motivated to do anything, you can achieve it if you push yourself. I'm going to push myself to paint this gutter. I only have one shot. And I only kind of don't like it. Yeah, that's actually not accurate at all. Oh, geez. Boop. It's okay, we can fix it. We'll just paint the background and move it up. There. Make that angle a little bit better. Now, question is, do we put the AC unit in it? The people who carefully design the backgrounds of realistic games like Red Dead or Watcher are using the game fundamentals that Tanner, the same fundamentals that Tanner is, color theory, texture, and using shapes to draw the eye. Absolutely, that is very true. Now, to defend the other side, what Zoli is saying is that maybe they're speaking of the people who are just watching the game rather than creating it. But you need to have participants, you need to have viewers in order to have creators. You need someone to look at your paintings, otherwise, you know, what's the point, in my opinion? Am I creating this just for myself? No, absolutely not. This is for other people to enjoy, and I like hearing what people say, if they genuinely like it, or if they're like, you know what, Tanner, you could do a little bit better. And I'm pretty hard on myself anyways, but when I hear that, it tells me that we are collaborators, in that they can tell me that I can do a slightly better job. Keep looking at the camera and I'm seeing this rooftop and it looks perspective looks way off on it. But I know it's because of the distortion of the camera, so I shouldn't be looking at the screen to change this because now it's off. In reality, it's kind of funny. In reality. Okay, like that. We're going to add this little doorway. Next, working back to front, be as simple as possible. I'm going to put the dark green amethyst note here. Like that. And then we're going to add the doorway underneath it, which is a very cool note. When I squint at that, it's actually a little darker. We're going to push it green, grabbing Viridian, white, raw umber. Test this. It's almost an identical value, but different temperature. Go. And then we have the shutters, which are cooler, more blue. Neutralizing that with my neutral blue, which is black. And it's also the same exact value as the wall. So I'm looking at the larger shape first. And then I see that little rectangle on the inside. Do the large one first. Okay, I'm getting a little too dark on that side. There we go. We're going to go internally. I'm not questioning or comparing the artistic ability of the designers. The problem is that there's much greater demand to see who plays, instead of looking at artistic creation. Strange. Yeah. That's true. There are a lot of people that like to watch that. Yeah, it's funny. Speaking of creating interesting content, I have been trying to come up with a game plan when it comes to TikTok. It's funny, there's a meme going around in the art world where it shows Leonardo da Vinci. He spent 10 years painting the Mona Lisa, and now he's finally ready to show it to the world. And meanwhile, contemporary artists are like, oh geez, I haven't posted in 2 days. People must think I'm dead. So the world is all about cranking out fast content right now. And I'm trying to find a balance to appeal to the contemporary viewer and crank out some content on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. Because you kind of have to do that nowadays. So let me know if you have any tips. All right. Going to emphasize that rooftop there. Going to terminate it earlier. This tape is really nice. Once I remove it, it's going to really show how sharp that edge is. It's going to be very satisfying. Draw out those tiles a little bit. Digging it. Put in a few dark notes underneath the tiles in the foreground. Still haven't gone to 100% black. Should I put the AC unit in? Said that before. Let's take a vote. If anyone is interested in responding, should I put it in? So I'm painting this light. I put the bright white first because it's behind the shapes around it. I'm going to place the base of it next, and I want it to be more blue. Each time I make a brush stroke, I'm loading it. There we go. And the top is that. In order to read it, I need to back up. I think I could go a little bit darker at that base. Again. Go. I vote no AC unit. Makes it more timeless. Nice. I agree. I've also decided to take away the satellite dishes. In the one I did on location, I put pretty much everything in. All right, now for the moment of truth. I'm going to be putting in some of these more timeless. I like your idea, but I kind of like the verticals of the antennas. We could pretend they're poles. Don't necessarily need to be antennas. Okay, hold off on that. Artificial intelligence is fast, never be AI. Let's see, if you could expand on that, I'm not quite sure what you mean. I'm going to put pure black in now. Okay, no AC unit. Or no AI. What are you voting for? Probably the AC unit. Okay. Yeah, we need more going on in this area specifically. That. Well, definitely achieved nice color study. I know what I can do. We can put in this, we're going to pretend it's a clothesline. TikTok is instant gratification. Yeah, it really is. Fast, very fast-paced, very addictive, but yeah, maybe there isn't a but. It is very, very addictive. I'm going to create some color difference in these tiles. Some of them are more worn than others. So I'm laying in some color notes, maybe some cool notes that are just create a bit more variety there. Okay, we could add a bit more warmth up here. More firm line. Got a chimney we can add right here. And I'm also going to place one, I'm going to change the photograph a little bit, because I think I need more chimneys. I need one right here. Let's see. It's coming out of the top of that. I think I'll put it right here. Go. If you want to break up that area, you could put another building in seen from the reference photo. Yeah, I could bring that building in right here, couldn't I? Just to make one more exciting shape. This and that, but I'm not working with a lot of space here, but that would put another red shape here. Could even just have the rooftop leaning on top. Let's see. What if the roof stuck out? Then it came down. It could be behind those. Not sure if I like that. Because the tape is where the canvas ends, right there. All right. Well, oh, there we go. I know what to do. Gutter. Like that. Introduce some green. This ends here. That. Create some transparency. All right, so unfortunately we are running out of time. So I'm going to have to end the stream. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock here in Denver. I got to go to the Coors Western Art Show. Got to check out the show. This is the last weekend to see it, and got a bunch of friends in the show, so got to go check it out. But what this has done is served me as a color study. So now I have 2 different versions of the exact same location. I will likely continue working on this. I can show you again if you tuned in later. This is the original painting I did on location. And I really like this one. I like the darkness and the rooftops and how bright and clean that sky is. This one, yeah, has just a completely different feel to it. It's much warmer, much more saturated in those roofs, in the rooftops. Included the AC unit here. Yeah, pretty interesting. So I'm going to have to end the stream here. If you have any questions, I'll be doing this every Saturday at about 2:30, 2:45. So look forward to seeing you guys then. If you are interested in taking private lessons with me, or if you would like a personal critique, you can go to tannersteedart.com. Scroll down to classes and workshops. We can do private lessons, and I can even draw on to your painting using Procreate and give you guys some tips.